Good day, everybody. My name is Robinette Cross. I am the founder of Cross Cultural Talks LLC, where we promote academic success and cross cultural understanding. Um, I wanted to come on for just a little while today to talk to you about conducting international business in a culturally responsive way. And feel free to look at the playback. And if you have questions at the end of this teaching, please feel free to follow up with any questions via social media or email, and I'll leave all that contact information at the end of the teaching. In an effort to introduce myself, I do want to let you all know who I am. Again, I'm Robinette Cross, but I come to you with over 20 years of experience in the global business and academic arenas. So I have been a businesswoman for quite some time, operating in different countries, but I've also been a student and an educator in different countries. I've traveled abroad, studied abroad, lived abroad, conducted business abroad. And so I now have business operations in 4 different countries, including the United States. And I am one of the only African American female Arabic speakers who actively does business by introducing Americans to cultures across the world in a culturally responsive way. I provided guidance to businesses and institutions in the Middle East, Sub-Saharan Africa, Europe, and the United States. When you are conducting culturally responsive global business, then there are a few main objectives that I will outline for you today. The main objectives are to understand the benefits of cultural responsiveness, how to prepare for initial conversations, whether they are virtual or in person, how to take an initial assessment, an assessment of the location, the country, the region in which you will be doing business, and also to engage, exchange, and empower. For those of you who may not be familiar with this term, which I'm not quite sure if you're in the United States, how you would not be if you're at a level of preparation for conducting business, or even if you are in the academic arena, but the concept of cultural responsiveness. And so I pulled this definition. It is having an awareness of one's own cultural identity and views about difference, and the ability to learn and build on the varying cultural and community norms of students, of different peoples and their families. So it's not relegated just to students, because cultural responsiveness happens in various different areas. It's primarily now used in education, but also in health. It is used in peer recovery. It is used in business models. It is the way to go. Essentially, what that means is not only do you understand the perspective from which you are coming, but the people you are serving, the people in the communities where you reside, you not only understand that they have a difference or that they have differences, you acknowledge them, you're willing to learn about them, and you're willing to modify what you know or what you teach in order to effectively incorporate every member of that community. So understanding your difference, and not only understanding their difference, but building on those things so that it becomes a collaborative community of engaged individuals instead of simply diversity. Diversity just means that you have somebody represented from multiple different ethnic or social or racial backgrounds. That doesn't mean that there is true work being done. Cultural responsiveness demonstrates that you have humbled yourself enough to be willing to understand that you come with a certain knowledge bank, a certain level of biases that may be good or bad, but that are not your fault unless you use them as weapons, of course, intellectual weapons, weapons of deconstruction, but that you have decided to make a conscious effort to learn about the people who are in your community, whether that is your local community or your global community, and you all work in a collaborative way. Why is that important in doing business? The reason why it is because one, you want to be able to understand the communities that you're serving, the people who you are serving. So what does this mean? You have to go beyond the numbers. One of the things that as business people, we have to consider, you have to think about numbers. You wouldn't be responsible if you were not thinking about numbers. And that is not just with money, but that's also with the people whom you're going to impact. That is with your demographic. You have to consider the numbers. Yes, you do, but you do need to go beyond your portfolio. You cannot just look and see that there are only numbers. Numbers equate to human beings. They equate to lives that are being served, modified, altered, and hopefully enhanced because of your presence in a specific environment. And so you have to go beyond your personal objective, beyond your portfolio or the numbers that you're trying to maximize. And I know that we are numbers driven, but it's more than that because you can impact more as you impact effectively. Why is there a need for your business to connect with that particular country, that particular community, that particular ethnic group? There has to be a direct and a conscious need. What has pulled you to them? How can they benefit from you? Not just how can you benefit from them? What can you offer the people that will add to their quality of life? What can you offer people that's going to make them better? How is your business going to serve where it is instead of just serving your bottom line? And how do you present yourself in a way that is not culturally inappropriate, that that's not culturally inappropriate without culturally appropriating? What does that mean? It means that you don't have to try to be somebody you're not. Don't be unauthentic. Being considerate does not mean that you have to turn around and be and culturally appropriate. It means that you have a willingness to learn, to discover, and to share. So some things to consider as you're about to conduct business internationally. And by the way, I do want to congratulate you. It is a wonderful thing to be a part of a global community of international business owners. Consider your demographic. I know I said that before, but you have to. What is the demographic in the country where you will do business? How will you be received? So, for example, I am a woman. I not only am a woman, I am an American woman. I am a Black woman who, yes, I'm Francophone, but my primary language is English. I am an American and I do business primarily in Arab Muslim countries. So what does that mean for me? Well, it means that sometimes I have to go into places with a male representative, even though I'm the one who owns places. Sometimes I have to be quiet and I have to let my male business partner or companion or associate, whatever you want to call them, lead the way into the discussion. I have to know when I can be absolutely present in places when I'm speaking, when I can initiate and engage the conversation, and when I can just allow my thoughts to penetrate paper and someone else use my words to effectively conduct business. So I have to strategize, which means that I have to know the culture. I cannot just go guns a-blazing in there and do my own thing because I'm some forward thinking American woman of the 21st century. That's absolutely bananas. It's bonkers and it won't get me anywhere. What will get me somewhere is I've known the culture, I've done my work, I've done my research, and I've asked, would you mind someone with whom I feel absolutely safe, not only with me as a person, but with my ideas? Would you mind coming with me and being my mouthpiece in this meeting or accompanying me in the meeting? So they lead, I follow, even though I'm the one who is the owner. But that is culturally how business is done in some places. And I know that I have to know my place as the woman in those cultures. I hope this is making sense. This does not downgrade me. I don't feel in any way degraded. I feel like I'm smart and I feel like what I need to do supersedes how I feel in that moment. You always have to know the GDP, right? You must know the GDP of any country in which you plan to do business. This is simple, basic stuff. But you also have to understand potential threats. So I know it sounds nice to say, oh, I'm going to go do business in, let's say, Southeast Asia. Well, let's consider some things. Let's consider some things like maybe can I do business when there's monsoon season? Is the business that I'm going to do impacted by weather conditions? It's extremely wet climate, but you also have to consider things like borders. Is there a border dispute? I wouldn't do business, even though I do a lot of business in Morocco. None of my business is now down near the Western Sahara. That doesn't make sense. There is a border dispute happening there, and it would not be beneficial for me. It would not serve the people there as a woman who is a businesswoman, and it would be dangerous for me. So you have to think about it. Where can I do business, or what are my potential threats? Also, you have to think about, is there a migrant population? Where are the migrant populations? Can we do anything to include them if that's something that you want to do? How can they be used, or is that something that's off limits? You have to consider the ethnic divisions, gender divisions, or social mores, those are your social norms, religious divisions. You have to take all those things into consideration where you're thinking about how you're going to conduct business in another country, and the expectation of presentation in the public space. What are those cultural norms? So, for example, there are some times where I've had to do this when I've done business and I have had to go into a madrasa. A madrasa, for many of you, as you know, is a Quranic school. This is a school for Quranic studies, which means that there is a certain expectation of how I dress, not only as a woman, but there's just an expectation of how you appear in those schools, whether you are a man or a woman. And so I can't go into those schools with my hair out, and I can't go in those schools when I don't have the proper covering. So I have to put on hijab, even if I'm not Muslim. Those are things that I have to do in order to make sure that I can get into the door to have the meetings that I need to have. I hope this is making sense for you guys. And then you have to understand some salutations. Now, this is something where it takes time to know, and it's always good and beneficial to have someone who is your liaison, someone you can trust, someone who can be there with you, who can guide you through, and you build a trustworthy relationship with. So you may want to learn some simple greetings. It's not always necessary. If you travel a lot, a smile can go a long way, but smile, be quiet, and stand still until you observe your surroundings and you see how people are interacting. In the United States, we tend to want to do various different types of interactions that are considered an infringement on personal space in other places. And for example, I know when we're doing business, normally there's a hard handshake. And a lot of other cultures, they don't do hard handshakes. There's a soft handshake with the hand to the heart. And it's gender-based interactions. So, and I also should not put my hand out first sometimes because I am a woman and you've got to know the rule. So you have to take an observation of your surroundings. You have to know when you can initiate. It's always best to watch, and it's always best to wait. It's always best to smile, stand still, and wait until the interaction comes to you. You do have to know when and how it is culturally acceptable to greet. And then know that because you are the guest, people are going to accommodate you because they think you don't know any better. So the goal is to incline them to you. For example, even though you don't have to learn basic reading, try, try. Oh, it's wonderful to put forth an effort, and don't be afraid of embarrassing yourself. People love and appreciate when you put forth effort to know a little bit about them. I do. I love and appreciate when people want to know about me instead of making assumptions. And I know that people love and appreciate when I want to know more about them. This is just not in your personal interactions. This segues into business because business is relationship. You're building relationships with people that just so happens to have a lucrative exchange. But ultimately, at the core of it is person to person interaction. And you cannot do that if you are not being culturally responsive. And then one of the most important questions that you need to ask not, going in there and saying, I have a solution, but when you sit down and you have your first set of business meetings, whether that's virtual or it's in person, no matter where you are, you need to ask, how can you serve? You do not get dissuaded, please, by what you see on social media, on the media. on the news. Don't let that brainwash you into thinking you know everything or really anything about what's going on in another country or location. You know what social media and other forms of media want you to see. You know a perspective that is not your perspective. And it is a skewed perspective that could be a dangerous interpretation when you get feet on the ground. So the question that you need to ask is, how can I serve? What can I do? What is your need? Yes, you can go and you can do all the research you want, which I always suggest you do that. Do research, know your background, try to understand some of the history. But your main question is, how can I be of service? What is the need of your people? And I'll tell you, there's a country in which I am doing business, and I had one idea when I went in. I wanted to serve girls, young girls, for a particular reason in terms of providing them with educational opportunities. But the truth of the matter is, there was a whole community of people who needed not only education, but who needed to be employed as educators. And then subsequently, those educators needed to have a place where their children could be, a daycare where their children could be. There's a sustainable location where crops can grow. So there's a farming space. So it ended up being something that's so much bigger because there was a need. Not only was there a need, there were people who knew how to get to the provisions. And so if you just ask the question, what is your need and how can I serve you? Then all of these things, one that is a humble function, because you can sit down and you can actually begin, that opens up the door for people to share with you. And you can start to think about solutions and think about your other connections and how you can network those things in and blend them in. Please do not get persuaded or dissuaded by what you see or hear in the news. Don't go in there as a know-it-all. Go in there as a willing vessel. Set the tone as you connect with the people. Set the tone of humility, yet coming to serve. And then business is a human interaction. Be human. It's wonderful to be human. It's wonderful to be thankful. It's wonderful to be grateful. If you want to connect with me to learn more about this, here's my contact information. Go to crossculturaltalks@gmail.com. Our Facebook location is Cross Cultural Talks LLC. We're Cross Cultural Talks on Instagram. And then, of course, you can go to the website, crossculturaltalksllc.com. I look forward to connecting with you. Thank you so much for taking some time to go through this lesson. And I hope you all have a phenomenal remainder of your day. Go be great on purpose. Take good care.